Hello, everybody, and welcome to the sportiest stream, the stream with the worst graphics, but maybe the most energy, depending on how much sleep I've had the night earlier. And lucky for you, yesterday was a Sunday. I had an amazing amount of sleep, so this is going to be a hyped day. We got one series to pour all that energy into. It's Blackline Championship Series. It's a rematch from 1 week ago. And it is Flow State versus Team Ignition. A massive series last week in the qualifiers for the Winter Invitational, Stage 2 as well, and it went all the way to Game 5. Flow State got an auto bid into that second stage and proved it there with a win. But Ignition, so many people are talking about them as being that team to show up, that team to contest the top, and to always be competitive, and they really did make that true. The series went to Game 5. Ignition were up in the series after Game 3, 2-1, but Flow State pulled back in Game 4. And in Game 5, the only difference maker was a Team Ignition own goal. That's all that separated that series. And, you know, it's such a great thing to have this series happen again. I love rematches. I love to see teams play again. I love to kind of contrast teams from how they played, because these teams, they know how they play. Now, who out of these two teams is going to make those changes, is going to make those adjustments to work out the kinks, work out the holes on the other team, and try to outplay them? Those that you play on either team if you wanted to. Interesting. Interesting statement there, Roses. But as I was saying, again, a massive series here for both these teams. Ignition really want this series. You understand that as well. After having such a heartbreaking loss, a series that they had numerous chances to win, it just came down to a single goal, a single moment, maybe a single lapse in judgment, but that was all that took. Flow State, they took their chances. They had some incredibly strong midfield pressure. And for Team Ignition, their counterattacks still proving to be strong, but it felt like at moments Flow State was just able to overwhelm Ignition. Does this series bear the same results, or do we find some changes here? Do we find Ignition making amends for that loss they had last week? Well, I mean, we got a best of 5 to decide that, and it's on this stream. So we're going to get to that one in just about 5 minutes from now, and you know, when there's 5 minutes left, that means that something's about to start. It's the prediction poll. Go vote for who you think will win. Think it'll be Flow State or Team Ignition? Oh, yeah, I see it, Pink Roses. Okay, that's pretty good. There we go. Now the silence is over from you. And also I gotta say thank you for the support. 5 at CE Tisco. Let's get ourselves here. Again, a massive series. It's gonna be another best of 5, just as we had 1 week ago. And of course, with that prediction poll open, you all can vote for who you think will win. Again, do you think Flow State will do it all over again, or do you think it's going to be... Sorry, do you got Flow State winning it all again, or do you got Ignition just taking it back and getting their revenge? It's the same lineup for Ignition as they had last week. Wall, Sophie, and Frosty were taking to the field against Matt, Key, and Sire. And there's so many great things that could come from this. There's so many outcomes that I'm really interested in. As, again, all of you now with your votes coming in. With Ignition, I know they currently, they just pinged me on Twitter as well. So I know that their fam is going to come. The Ember community, as they're known as, is going to start popping in. They're going to start populating this chat. And, man, this is going to be a very busy night. Gotta love it whenever Ignition's on your stream because they come out in bunches. And they are no strangers to being supportive. So we'll see how it happens. But again, Ignition, they got their work cut out for them here against Flow State. Flow State and Ignition both. Flow State be in their Premier series, as this is what the match is taking place in the Premier Series. The out of the top series in the Blackline Championship Series, this is the second top to top. Ignition, one of two undefeated teams currently in the standings, but Flow State 2-1, and we saw Flow State beat Ignition last week, so who knows what will happen. Oh goodness, Flu? Oh, that. Oh my goodness! I just look in the chat, and the first thing I see is Flu. That is. Oh no. Well, I hope you have a good recovery. that is horrible. But again, I'm making sure that everybody's getting in here. I know these teams will only jump in once we hit that start time, so we'll give them some time here. As I'm so excited for this series. It's great to have. It's great to have these teams back playing each other again, and you know some statistics for you that I've noticed just in general Rocket League when it comes to rematches. Generally speaking, the team that's won before, especially if it's a close rematch like this one, where teams are playing each other again, generally rematches are more one-sided to the team that's won before. That's what I've seen a lot of times with close rematches like this, but saying that, this is also only the second time these teams have played each other, so anything can happen. Maybe last week was different than this week. As I see everybody is joining in here, we'll be getting ourselves started very shortly. Info's been sent out to both teams. I'm excited. I know all of you in chat are excited, because I see all of you getting excited. Prediction poll is about to close, but I know the votes are coming in strong as ever. We'll see just where this goes, and just kind of a fun storyline to talk about. Last time these two teams played, it ended in an own goal, and it came courtesy of Sophie. If there's anyone that in this series that wants that revenge more, it can't be more than her. I would not be surprised. Sophie had a really good series the last time they played. There were some exceptional moments from her, but ultimately, you're not remembered for all the great plays you make if it's ended in a mistake. Ignition Sophie wants to correct the wrongs that were made before. You know, that maybe a little burst of energy, a little burst of anger. Maybe that will be enough to tip this in Ignition's favor. There's so many things on the line here. There's so many different things to look at. As I see Roses here becoming Ignition's public enemy #1, going for Flow State. I mean, you knew it was going to happen at some point. I know Roses pretty well. Ah, man, this is not the first time you've done that. Ignition, Flow State, here we go. Time to focus up. Time to watch the rematch that we've all been wanting, we've all been clamoring for, that we all deserve. It's Flow State on the blue, Ignition on the orange, a best of 5, and it all starts here on Manfield night. Can Ignition get their revenge, or do Flow State prove once and for all they truly are the better team here? As, again, so many things riding on this series. These teams, they know each other. They've literally just played each other. And there's so many storylines. I've already told you about Sophie wanting to get revenge here, but Wall as well, known as one of the most clutch players I've seen on stream in a while. Can he bring that clutch factor here? And then Frosty to round it all off. I think I talk about him the least on my stream, but that's not anything against him. He plays exceptionally well. He scores a lot of the goals for this team. I think the question for Ignition this series is, how can they prevent going on defense so much? Last series against Flow State, it felt like Flow State while it was a close, games are always close. It felt like that they always had the advantage on the possession game. As Wall now gonna try to double tap down for Sophie. That is there, saved by Sire. It's rolling all the way, but it cleared away by Matt. Flow State survived the first flurry of this series. Wall cleared away, but that's only the key. But Sophie's up immediately to that one. He's trying to redirect it away, but Wall's on top of it. Sophie off the back wall. So far, frenetic gameplay from Ignition. Very different than last time we saw them. They're not so content to sitting back playing counterattack. Instead, they want to be the ones to control the pace, control this game, and control the outcome of this series. So many times you see defensive playstyles crumble when pressure's on the line. Ignition are not a team that's known to crumble. For the amount of time I've seen them on the stream, they have veins of ice. But they are prone to collapses. This one back, Frosty off the back wall. Sire looking back in, but Wall is waiting. Misses this one, rely on Sophie, but a bit of miscommunication from the Ignition defenders. And a miss here from Frosty. Matt, upfield to Sire. Can't put that one in. A clear-cut opportunity for Flow State. And they just didn't have enough boost to close it out. Frosty can't double tap. Key on target. Sophie pre-jumps that one away. Wall dunks out Sire. Here comes Sophie. Right now, Flow State trying to do what Flow State does well here. Get offense, create mayhem, and just not let Ignition breathe. But they are going on defense here. Sire, back past the key, whether it be unintentional or not. We'll say if it was intentional, probably the most big brain pass you'll see all series long. I say that, and yet these teams, they have pretty big brains. So we'll see what kind of plays they devise up. Sire towards the net. It's open for him, and Flow State will score first in the series. Ignition were able to hold up a lot of offense, but ultimately they are the first ones to crack here. As you see a huge rush back from Ignition, Frosty wasn't able to turn fast enough to make that challenge, and Flow State will take advantage of it. Ignition playing from behind. That one from Wall goes to no man's land. Ignition now have to clear it away. But you can just see Flow State stacking the midfield, trying to prevent Ignition from having anything to have on offense, but they won't stop them for long. And here comes the creativity of the offense from Ignition, always looking for each other, always following each other's touches. It's Sophie to Wall, and the offensive duo has been the powerhouse name for Ignition. We'll tie up this game at 1. And we have a series on our hands. This will not be one-sided, as many would predict rematches to be. In fact, this might have the exact same storyline as we saw the last time these two played. Going all the way. It's going to be little differences here. Little changes. Big goals to separate these teams. As Frosty now looking for Wall, looking back across, but no one there. An overcommit here from Ignition won't be countered immediately, as Sophie just going to get rid of that pressure. You can see Ignition relying a lot more on clears here. A lot of times they try to dribble out of defense, but right now they're trying to play fast. They're trying to play aggressive, and they're trying to play a bit chaotic, I think. As Sophie now with the solo play can get through Matt on this 50. Use the wave dash as well, trying to get on Key. Frosty towards the back wall. Matt doesn't read this. Up is Wall. Demo play will help him out. He can't read the double. In front for Sophie. That one's off target. Final seconds here. Do we see any more chances, or are we going to an overtime in the inaugural game of this rematch? Sophie to clear. No follow-up from Ignition, as Wall's going to take this boost. Will allow Frosty to put it upfield. Wall coming across, but won't jump for it. In front for Frosty, but Sophie was hesitant to challenge that, and now Ignition losing a couple 50-50s. Sire, the other way. Dribble, looking for the 50. Can't get through Frosty. Sophie getting chased. As well, Ignition might just settle for an overtime here. But they need to have the ball dropped to the ground first. Flow State don't want it to happen, and they have a huge whip from them. We'll now put this game at golden goal territory. One more play will decide it, both teams. are enacting very similar playstyles, trying to be as fast as possible here. Looking for dribbles, especially for Ignition, trying to keep themselves grounded. Their goal did come from a dribble play. For Flow State, seems to be the exact opposite, as they're trying to put the ball up in the air. Frosty can't get through Key, but this one's in front dangerously. Wall's touch will not persuade Matt. As Sophie is going to put this one away. Ignition seems like they left the ball in some weird situations that they can't really get to on offense. And those situations allow Flow State to clear. And again, for a team like Ignition, they seem to be pretty defensive in nature. Definitely more so than Flow State, as Flow State in front, can't score here, still in front. Sophie, Wall, still hanging. My goodness, Ignition. You talk about panic play on defense. Throwing everything you got to just get the ball out. How in the world did Ignition do that? Frosty, trying to get the ball away. Ignition have some breathing room. Sophie playing close will pinch it in front. A couple demos, though, will leave Ignition relatively stranded. But still, a bump play. Rare from Ignition. They don't go for a lot of bump plays as a team. But Sophie here, an opportunity, can't beat out Key. As Frosty dangerously almost puts it in his own net. Key misses this. Frosty with the dribble and trading demos here out of both teams in the midfield. Key, drop down, cleared by Sophie, but that's a huge error. Matt up to Sire, back to Matt, an open net miss. Flow State, many opportunities, many missed opportunities. Ignition still alive, and they're going to score here. Frosty will get the goal. He's been silent this game, but when his team needed him most, he comes up with the game winner almost 2 minutes in overtime. And for Flow State, they really were their worst enemies at the end here. Missed opportunities. That's going to be what they talk about here. Chances in front of the net where they were able to overwhelm Ignition and they couldn't score on them. Ignition kept fighting, kept working, even through these weird situations. Even panicking in front of their net at times, and yet it still worked out just enough for them. And they'll grab the early lead in the series. Is now game 2. Can Ignition add more to that lead? And with how this series has gone, somewhat unlikely. With how these teams do, they like to trade. They trade a lot of games. They traded games in the first series. We saw them again a week ago. Do we see that repetition? Wall, making it to the corner. Going to evade Key. Still on Wall. He's going to dribble this one. Oh, what a deke from Wall. He still has the ball. Minimal boost will flick it towards the blue net. And Frosty jumps for that one as well. Sophie has to be careful, but analyzes the situation. Goes for the play. It will help Ignition get offense, but not for long. Wall. This one, more or less maybe a clear back to Sophie. In front, maybe for Frosty, but Sire will find Matt. Frosty! How did he get to that? Ignition survive again, and a huge whip from Key. And Sophie will have the easiest goal in her Rocket League career. And how in the world did Frosty save that one? That net was open. He had the hand of God there to jump back and get that one. There couldn't have been much in that. Ignition doing just enough to keep the ball out. That seems to be their motto right now. Just enough. It may not look pretty. It may not look like it's going to work, but if it works, it works. Ignition now have the lead in this game. Key, a huge miss. Drop down the Key. Maybe it's a fake play. But Wall's up. He'll put it in the corner. But first onto the scene is Matt. Can't get past the Flurick and Sophie. Sophie maybe trying to make an Arsenal's timeline here as now she assists Wall. The troublesome duo strikes again. And just like last time, it's Sophie to make the assist. It's Wall to make the goal. And Ignition now lead by 2 in this game. Flow State off to a horrible start. But it's not over yet. It's only been about a minute in this game. And knowing how these games go, we're going to see more goals as that one saved by Key. Frosty An errant touch. It seems like in the Ignition's fervor and their pace to try to play as correctly as possible, they overcommit sometimes and they cut off each other on rotations. Sophie, though, looking in front for Frosty, but he won't challenge us. Instead, we'll leave it for Wall to use the back wall. A key. Smash touch. Matt is up. Matt fakes it, and that one will elude Sophie. And Key, from way downtown, bang. Let's just get a goal here. And sometimes the threat of a player is enough to get that goal. In this case, it was. As Sophie bit on a shot there, and the fake play will be what results in Ignition's doom, but they're still in the lead by 1, although that lead now will constantly be in jeopardy as Flow State can try to find ways back. Matt, one-on-one with Wall, will win the 50-50 for Key on target. Sophie can't read it, and Flow State are back, tied all. As Ignition have overcommitted once again on offense. Scrambling back to defense, they don't have enough time to set up. And it's ultimately hurting them here in these series. This aggression from them is not something you see from them often, and you can see it start to unwind when Flow State have these bursts of pace. Back on the other end. Wall. Can't get it past Key in front. Frosty's there. Will clear it away, but Wall follow through in front for Frosty. But that one just far away. Sire. Looking to go and take a piece of Sophie here, but Sophie will clear. Key. Infield to nobody as Sire's gonna have to let this one hit the wall. Bumped, but still has possession. Trying to get under Frosty. And he will 50-50 Matt. Ignition right now. Playing close quarters defense, but for how long will that last? Their boost is getting stolen here. And Flow State trying to suffocate them away. Wall. 50-50 beat out Sire. That one going the other side of the field. Key will save it. But the follow-up from Sophie won't come in. Frosty to shoot. That one will go in, though. And just like how Ignition had to race back, it's Flow State now to do the panic play. As they just couldn't set up in time. It looks like both teams are trying to put all of their cards on offense in every single offensive play. Trying to put the aggression here. Put the pedal to the metal, and for both of these teams, it's resulting in them overcommitting. As Sire off the kickoff will beat past Sophie. Still, it's Flow State to answer back. Ignition, when they get a lead, they just can't hold it. And that one there, a pretty rough kickoff there from Wall. Didn't leave Sophie in much of a position to make a play there. And once again, we're tied. When it comes to high-scoring series, Flow State and Ignition both able to square up on each other, but right now it is Ignition that has that kind of first initial lead. Do Flow State gather their momentum? Wall. Back past to Sophie. Key is demoed away. Chance for Sophie to clear, but Sire will win the 50-50. He's looking to chase down Frosty as well. He'll get a piece of Wall, and the net is wide open. And no one in Ignition was there. Flow State has been going for these demo plays all series long, and finally it does work in their favor as nobody's home for Ignition. Flow State take their first lead of the game. You felt like it was a long time coming for Flow State. They just continuously bombarded Ignition, their offense starting to click in this series. Ignition, though, trying to find a way back. A double whiff. Sophie has to be careful on her offensive advances. This one going back. Wall is there. Will find a clear. But it's answered back by Matt. Wall will look for a dribble. Will dunk him out. Sophie for this one. Key with the miss will allow Sophie to have some time, but not really making much of it. Frosty off the back wall. Sire up, but Wall's jumping up there too. They should not afraid to challenge those. But they do need a goal, and we're at the final minute of gameplay. A double commit from Ignition. That was a chance there. Wall had a follow-up. He had a shot opportunity. But I'm telling you, these Ignition rotations have the advances of overlapping sometimes. And you find that sometimes they just stomp on each other's heels. A demo play from Ignition, but it will still be Flow State's ball. Wall. Bumped away by Sire. Matt. Frosty to leave it up for Sophie. Sophie, though, will not win the 50 against Key. Wall has to clear this one long, using the ceiling. We'll get under 1, but not under 2. Sophie can't catch up to it, and it's Sire to score. Ignition putting all their eggs in their basket here. And it just doesn't work out. Ignition starting to try to force this offense through, and that's just not going to work against Flow State. They're a team where you really have to break them down piece by piece. There's Frosty. Looking for a goal back, can't get it. It will be Waldo to finish it off. This game's not over yet. 13 seconds remaining. And Ignition only 1 goal away from maybe making us go to another overtime. But in doing so, a Herculean task ahead of them. And it will start on the kickoff. Can they win this one? Can they get the pressure that they need to generate offense? And the answer is yes. Wall will win it off the corner. Matt misses, and Frosty in front will score. My goodness, Ignition have done it. 13 seconds remaining, and they do score, and it's off of a mistake from Matt. Flow State will be kicking themselves. They had this game. They had a 2-goal lead with 22 seconds left, and they weren't able to hold it. Ignition now answer. It's 5-5. Final seconds. Sophie, looking to clear, will get past Sire, and it will drop. We go to another overtime in this series. Another golden goal scenario. The wall almost breaks through the Flow State defense, a double commit, but saved away by Flow State. Sophie, awkward, will get an over-the-shoulder save. Sire, in front, Wall, looking for the 50-50 on Sire. Up in front for Frosty. We'll have to challenge that because Matt's on it too. Wall beats 1. Will also beat 2. An open backfield for Ignition, but Wall doesn't really have the boost to get to it. I'll have to just concede with letting Sire have that one. Sophie, a 50-50 in front. Wall will not hesitate to chase this one. Ignition trying to end this overtime a little quicker than the last one. This one up, hanging in front. Matt will have a free second touch here. And Wall with 0 boost in the 50-50. Sire, though, towards the net. Sophie makes another Herculean save. This one in front. Wall to Frosty, but Frosty removed from the pitch. And you can just see Sophie. I'm sure the flu isn't making this series any easier for her. But, my goodness, she has been the difference maker in some of these plays. I think that's why they've gone for demos here, Flow State. But Wall beats out Key in front. Sire can't beat Frosty initially. Matt, though, will not have an issue with clearing this one out, but Ignition, they're the ones putting on the pressure, but do they get the result they want? Only time will tell. Last overtime was 1 minute 55 seconds. This one might go that distance and even longer. As Ignition wait back, Wall with 1 touch. Can't beat Matt. Will have to go for the dunk instead. Sire in front. Key maybe looking for the double tap, but Frosty read it. Ignition sitting back, but so is Flow State. Frosty just gonna chip this one in front. And Matt will say no problem whatsoever. Sophie, dunk play. Looking in front. Still no goals. As now we have officially passed 2 minutes in this overtime. And for Flow State, they're hoping that this game is their time to take a piece out of Ignition, but Ignition will not let that happen. 2 minutes, 20 seconds, and it's Wall to finish this one off. He has a hat-trick. He scored half the goals this game for Ignition. And it's Sophie once again to help out on offense. An assist that won't be credited to her. And Ignition now up 2-0 in the series. They're coming back, and they're coming back with the fury here. But still, the series isn't over. Every game has gone to a super long overtime. Flow State, so long as they're able to hold these leads better, I would not be surprised if we go back to Champions Field. But, you know, that is a hard thing to answer. As we now go to DFH Stadium. Ignition, they want to end this series in a 3-0 sweep. As we are getting some lag issues here. But my goodness, what a series. 2 overtimes, both having the average of about 2 minutes on overtime. There is nothing that's really separating these teams. I feel like as if these teams are literally like carbon copies of each other, because I can't see any differences. They both are doing somewhat the same kind of playstyle, and you find that, like, again, there's little things are separating these teams, little mistakes. And for Flow State, unfortunately for them, they're the ones making the most egregious of them. Last game, it only went to an overtime because a huge miss from Matt allowed Ignition to tie it up. Flow State cannot be making those mistakes any longer. They are on their last life now. They have to win 3 games in a row. A task that is possible, but against an Ignition that has been able to close out the overtimes, it's going to be difficult. Sophie. What I find so interesting from Ignition is, again, as a defensive team for them, they haven't played super defensively, but here Flow State will score first. They had to play defensively here. Wall's touch, not what he wanted there. Should not have flipped off. He had Frosty as an option. Instead of flipping outward, hitting the ball outward, should have kept it close to the wall, made the angle tougher. And again, it's those small little things that you notice. Maybe on the replay reviews, maybe from me on the broadcast desk, maybe you as viewers. It's those little things you notice that can really be the ultimate difference maker. These teams are not perfect. They make mistakes, and their opponents need to take advantage of it. Key in front for Sire. Sire's shot has no flip in there, and that won't even have any power to become a shot. Key saved by Wall, still up for it. Wall has a knack for following up these touches off the back wall. Mechanical ability from Wall, definitely not understated when he goes for those kind of plays. He's now back the other way. Frosty sitting back. Make the initial save. And now pinch out. Wall. Net. Looking clear for him, but Matt able to jump in time. Sophie. Looking in front. That one will roll out. No one on Ignition. They didn't want to take the chance there that they could potentially overcommit. They know that they do that, and they know that it can result in goals. Going to be calculated in when they do a commit on offense. Wall. In front for Sophie, but everybody on Flow State knew it, and everybody on Flow State jumped for it. Frosty now. Flow State's on low boost. Shot will be saved by Sire on the line. Flow State need to collect themselves here. A triple commit. And now they break out to Key off the back wall. Wall will not make the same mistake he had last time. This time, keeping it closer to the wall, keeping it further away from Flow State's shooting opportunities. But for Ignition, it's still hard for them. They just need to break out against Flow State. Easier said than done. Flow State is a team that will 100% demo you, get it in your face, and take your boost. We've seen it work against Ignition earlier, but Ignition have not been too disturbed right now. In fact, they're looking to see if they can tie it up. They can't, though. It's saved by Key. Matt to clear. Sophie getting back just in the nick of time. Matt, a demo play. And Frosty actually didn't have that read. So fortunate his teammate came in there as a pinball play for Ignition will get the ball out of their half. Sophie, back to Wall. Chance in front. He's looking to demo out Matt, but Matt's able to jump in time. Sire misses. Wall trying to fake out Matt, but Matt read it the entire length of the way. He'll jump on Wall as well, trying to Goomba stomp him away. Doing anything he can to get even the slightest of opportunities against Ignition. Sire, huge wisp, Frosty, off the back wall, Key doesn't read it, here comes Wall, saved in a line by Matt, Flow State still leading by 1. That defense of theirs, immune so far, but Team Ignition, can their virus infect them once and for all, late in Game 3. Frosty, off the sidewall, looking to himself, but Sire's able to touch it. Wall, gonna beat past Key, a dunk play, but a double commit too. Ignition, maybe getting a little carried away here, trying to get themselves up to offense. So little time remaining, so little opportunities ahead of them. Flow State have cleaned up those errors that they made in games 1 and 2. Those errors that eventually led Ignition to get back. Sophie now, one-on-one, Flip reset, but Sire was waiting for it. Wall, not going to challenge this one in front for Matt, but not able to beat out Frosty. Sophie. He will get the dunk play, and a demo will allow Matt a chance on net. Can't beat Wall, though. And all Flow State need is one more goal, and here it is from Key. Flow State have shut out Ignition so far. Again, no mistakes from them. Ignition just cannot break through. Flow State trying to become the vice grip of this series. But you have that advantage. They're able to keep possession a lot longer and a lot more sustained. And I think a lot of it comes from the demos. Ignition have kind of dipped their toes in demos this series, but I've never really utilized them all too much. For Flow State, though, I mean, they didn't have to get a demo here to get this goal. As Ignition, it just seems like this game is not their game. Flow State have cleaned up their act. And they're looking to make a reverse sweep here. For Ignition, I think this game is well over for them, but still, Game 4, they have 2 more chances to end out this series, but sure, they'd like to end it out as soon as possible, not have to go to Game 5 again. Wall beats out Matt. Frosty will let it go for Wall. That one is up. Will Key keep it up? Yes, he will. Respecting the unwritten rules of Rocket League. Flow State and now travel the length of the field. And now Ignition will drop it. We're going to a 4th game here. Flow State have cemented themselves in this series. It took them a couple games to get there. It's not too late for them here in this series. They still have chances ahead of them. As we are again gonna go to a 4th game here. For Ignition. I haven't really said it that much, although I've started to talk about more. They aren't a heavy team, but I want to see them, when they do get those offensive chances, go for demo plays, because their offense against Flow State is not sustainable. It seems like their offense is kind of quick in, quick out. And Flow State, they're fine with that. They're able to play defense, they're able to keep the ball. For Ignition, they're only 1 game away. Again, they were shut out last game, but this is a whole new stadium, a whole new mentality for them. Looking to make amends for the game that they had on DFH here. Matt, maybe a double tap, but Sophie's there. Wall. In front for Sophie, and that one will drop in! Sophie has now scored first for Ignition, and it's off of Wall, the inverse of what we usually see in this series. And it's the Fluvrican player to score first in this game. Ignition, 1 step in the right direction. Still, they haven't yet completed that leap to winning this series. Flow State still looking to get even with them. Sophie to clear. Out to Frosty. You can see bumps from Flow State trying to wreak havoc on Ignition. But Ignition still stands strong. Wall back out maybe to Frosty, but Sophie will jump on this. Well, demo outside going after Key as well. It seems like they can hear me. As soon as I talk about them needing to do more demos, see Sophie trying to do just that for Ignition. Sire pinched, but Frosty will read this one. Now Matt's the only one back. He needs to keep control, and he does so brilliantly. Launched across the field. Here comes Frosty. Cleared away. No one really challenging this one. It's going to be Sophie to try to dunk on Matt, but Matt can't read it. Wall won't either. Matt double tap is off target. Frosty, awkward play. It's off the back wall. Sophie will read this one first. And you can see Wall already up to getting that one, but it's cleared the other way. That one will just go in. Out of nowhere, Flow State find the absolutely perfect clear at the perfect moment. That one bounced off the ceiling and went in. A fortuitous bounce will allow Flow State to tie this game up. And again, like so many of the other games this series, if Ignition wants to win, it's going to be close. Wall misses this play. Double commit from Flow State, though, will allow Frosty to come on in and try to do the offense he wants to do. Wall. Hold it. Going to demo out Key. Sophie will 50 it, allow Frosty to walk on through. Frosty. Ceiling shot in front for Sophie. The Flow State read it. Wall. Off the corner. Double tap. Just to waste a little more time that Ignition can use to get back on offense. He bumps out Key too. That allows Frost to come in. Wall doing the dirty work here. So Ignition some offensive chances. And it's Wall now to clear. Sophie won't read this one. Didn't have to. It was going on target. Flow State able to save themselves a little bit of headaches. Almost a dunk goal as well from them. Flow State getting some weird 50-50s. But every goal matters just the same. As Wall out to Sophie. We'll bump out Matt in the process. Trying to see Ignition get more and more player aggressive here. Instead of going for the ball, instead of trying to maybe go for these elaborate plays, instead just trying to brute force their way through Flow State. A change of tactics. So far, it's allowed this game to stay even until the final 2 minutes. Sophie. 50s through Key. The Key will look for a back pass to Matt, but Matt misses! So does Wall. Flow State will not have to worry about a counterattack. Sophie double tap. Will not get past Sire, but still chances for Ignition to go to offense. Wall. Looking for Frosty, but Frosty's not up that fast. And Sophie's the last one back here. Needs to be careful on Matt. Sire, too, will still win the 50-50. As Wall's now stopped moving. Ignition now stuck on a temporary 2v3. And Flow State will try to take as much advantage of that as possible. Frosty. Can't get past Matt. Sophie up aggressively for this. And again, Ignition well aware here as Wall's now lost connection. Ignition will have to play the rest of this game as a team of 2. Unless Wall can reconnect, Flow State will have this player advantage. Fortunately for Ignition, a game that's been going so well for them, a game that's been so close, might just be decided because of connection issues. As Key will put this one in. And Wall, again, he's lost connection. Will he join back in time? Ignition now are now stuck at the almost impossible task of trying to tie this game up with just 2 players. They really do have to play all aggression, all offense here. Without their captain, this is going to be very awkward for them. And yeah, very awkward indeed. Flow State is having no issue picking apart the Ignition defense. And unfortunately, a terrible, unfortunate circumstances here will allow Flow State to now force Game 5 once again. Again, barring something sort of a miracle from Ignition. They're a team that has had miracles, but with 2 players, it just seems almost impossible for them. Time will tick away. Flow State are going to force Champions Field here. And unfortunately for them, or maybe fortunately for them, the storyline now for this series will be, does this disconnect change the course of the series? Wall's joined back, but it's sadly too late for him. His internet didn't hold up long enough. Neither could Ignition's 2 remaining players. Champions Field once again. We're back here. Flow State now on the verge of a reverse sweep. 2 games in a row where they've been able to win by massive margins, but this one, it really doesn't say what this series was like. It was a close game up until Ignition lost Wall. We're going to Game 5, the deciding match. Ignition have been here before against Flow State, and they weren't able to close it out. Now, though, seemingly even more pressure for them. They don't want to be reverse swept. We haven't seen a reverse sweep on this stream in eons, it feels like. Ignition definitely don't want to be added to that history book. Key. Drop down in front. Saved away by Frosty. Sophie will better jump on top of this one. Ignition were able to score first last game. A major reason that they were so successful. This one off the crossbar in front. Saved away by Sophie. Or more rather, cleared away. Key looking off the back wall. Maybe second touch. Saved away by Frosty. Ignition starting to get jumpy on defense. But still, it's Frosty that cleared away the danger. And generally speaking, Frosty's the quietest out of all these players. You don't really hear his impact as much, but you do hear the impact of players like Wall and Sophie, and once again, stringing up a pass and an assist on offense. And Ignition will take the lead in Game 5. For Frosty, all he has to do is sit back and watch as his two teammates do the offense, get the goal. And I think this game will really be telling. For Frosty, he has to just make sure that this back line for Ignition, especially when they're on offense, does not fall apart. Is this one cleared away? Sophie will not be able to reach it, but it's off the post. Ignition almost caught napping. Not the first time that a clear has seemingly beaten their defense. It is, but it isn't going to go in here. Flow State still searching for an equalizer. They have the offense here to do it. Key off the corner. Matt doesn't read this one. And Sire's not going to jump for it. Frosty will get this ball away. And will dribble past too. He just saw a team bump as well from Flow State. In front for Sophie. Off the corner. Maybe it's a Wall. That one won't find the target. Ignition retreat. But are they fast enough? Sophie able to just get that one slightly away from the net. All that Ignition needs to stop that offense. Key on target. Matt will somehow score this one. How in the world did Matt get that angle? Sophie with a great double tap, but Key responds immediately, and Matt dunks out Frosty's touch. Frosty didn't read that one initially. And Matt was able to jump on that. And just like every single game before, if Flow State finds a response, Ignition have had difficulties preventing them from scoring. Again, Flow State are a team with a lot of fierce heads on offense. For Ignition, they're just trying to use Sophie, Wall, and Frosty will score this as defense from Flow State inexplicably fell apart here after a double commit. Sire was so hesitant to go for that play. In that situation for Sire, if he's up that far, he has to go for it. An unnecessary error from Flow State, and Ignition will take the lead once again. We're not even 2 minutes in this game, and already 3 goals. Wall trying to make it another one. Just off target. Ignition would love nothing more than an insurance lead right now. But that won't come easily against Flow State. Again, Flow State have that knack to always tie it up, always keep it close, always continue to just be the team right on the heels of Ignition. And Frosty now, that will be the Ignition though. The insurance. As you know, of course, I have to cast a curse Flow State. You know, once I talk about them being able to fight back, it's Ignition to score. It's Frosty to do it again. I told you, he's the player that I need to see step up. He's been so quiet this series. He scored the game winner in Game 1, but other than that, his impact has not been noticeable on the score sheet. This one, off the bar, and will go in for Flow State. Back and forth affair here. As Frosty just wasn't able to read this one. And it's Flow State to catch Ignition once again, maybe pushing a little too far aggressively. The clears from Flow State are extremely powerful. You don't expect that kind of power, and their placement is really well done as well. You don't see teams with that kind of clear game very often. How many teams, they try to go against that clear game because it gives away the pressure, but for Flow State, it creates goals. Frosty bumped away. It's Wall on top of it. Will fake under Matt, can't get through Key. Sophie will clear it out. Frosty has to jump for this. And that 50-50 won't be to his liking. Sophie, a light touch, will only delay. The inevitable offense from Flow State. Wall. Off the corner. Maybe second touch. Sire beats him. Frosty on his line. Sire in front to Matt. Sophie starting to spin in her own net there. You can see Ignition. It's not looking comfortable for them. They look visibly shaken up. But they are still making save after save, play after play, and they now have offense. It's Frosty to shoot, but it's Matt to get that one out. Flow State, once again, on the charge. Pinch play. Frosty was waiting for it. In front for Sire, and he could have challenged on that. Wall wasn't ready for it. It's Frosty now. Will fake to Wall. Off the corner. Sophie. It's not even close to this play. Doesn't want to challenge any of it. And that defense from Ignition could become costly for them, because it just feels like it's a matter of time before Flow State tie this game up. But still, Flow State have to put in that dagger. They have to put in that blow. They have to put in that goal. And Ignition are going to put everything they have into making sure that doesn't happen. Frosty. Can't get past Sire. It's Sophie. Put this one, and that one into the net. And it's Sophie to score. Insurance for Ignition. It was a long time coming for them, but they finally break through. Once again. And my oh my, this series has seen some twists and turns. 46 seconds remaining. Ignition lead by 2. Now you start to ask, are they going to play that same defensive playstyle? Are they not? Are they going to just let Flow State jump on them and just make sure that they try to make save after save like they've done so far this game? No, they say no, they won't, because Wall scores again. 30 seconds now. And it's looking dire for Flow State. They need 3 goals. They need a goal every 10 seconds. And we're shooting like that from Wall. They're trying to silence the Flow State team and their fans. Sire to shoot this one. Wall to clear. Ignition now. Running to 20 seconds remaining. Frosty off the back wall. Needs to keep this one close. Looking for the 50-50. Looking to waste out time. Final 15. This one pinched in front. Wall looking to clear. Final 10. And Flow State don't have enough time left. They don't have enough fire in their fuel. It's Ignition to do what they haven't done before and what they failed to do last week. They beat Flow State. Back and forth series, a back and forth affair. And Ignition get their revenge at last. And standout play this series from in games 1 through 4 from Sophie and Wall, but game 5, that was the Frosty show. Frosty showed up extremely well, and he essentially allowed Ignition to have this great start that they needed in game 5. They staved off the reverse sweep from Flow State. And now, a win here. They're going to stay undefeated in the Premier Series. As a follow coming in from Anna Gaming and Frosty So Clean. Thank you so much for the follows. What a series after all. But I don't think we're done yet. Because, I just gotta recap. What a close series. I want to see these teams play again and again and again. Every single series, it just seems like it will always go to game 5. We are going to go for a quick 1-minute break, but when we come back, an interview with Wall. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. And with us is the captain of Team Ignition. It's Wall. Welcome to the interview. You've been here before, but how do you feel now after that close win against Flow State? You went to Game 5 last week, you went to Game 5 again, but you're able to close it out this time.
Yeah, I think this time we just had a better game plan going into it. We were just kind of figuring out last time that we weren't even really playing great, even when we were winning. Um, we just didn't perform against better teams. Um, and so when we got Flow State's like really good. They do a good job of stealing your boost and demoing you and breaking you down that way. But this week we just decided to come up with a game plan, not just for that, but for like all other games against people who are at the same level or a little bit better than us.
Yeah, that makes complete sense, but I know you were telling me about it before we were ready for this interview, but that disconnect, that must have been absolutely heartbreaking for you, knowing that you leave your other two players stranded. But what was your team's mentality like coming into Game 5? Because obviously something changed because your team immediately went on the offensive.
Yeah, so once the DC happened, right? I mean, by the time I could get it all back together, we were already down, so we just kind of chalked that game up as already as a nil. We all think that we could have won that game for sure. I think when I DC'd, I was tied, I believe, and so as far as like the mentality goes for the next game, we were just like, let's just end it here. Let's just not even make it close,
And
and
just
that's what we did.
Yeah, and just to add even more, your team didn't have. It seems like the whole world was against your team. I
Yeah,
mean, you just had that memory of last week going to Game 5, losing from an own goal, and now this week obviously having that disconnect, but also having Sophie have the flu. It just seems
yeah.
like the whole world was against you, and you still come out on top. Tell me about how Sophie copes with that, because we've seen flu games in Rocket League before, most notably Arsenal at the World Championship, and it seems like the flu either gives people weird powers. I don't get it, but it seems like once you get sick, it's like everything will go well for you and you'll win even if you don't look amazing. But Sophie looks great this series. How did your team cope with the kind of unexpected changes here that came to you guys? Because you couldn't have planned for a sick game.
Yeah. So we knew that Soph had the flu like during the weekend. So luckily it was like towards the later stages of it, so she felt a little bit better. She obviously still felt it throughout that thing, and you could just hear it in her voice. But me and Frosty just knew that like in case anything happens, we're just gonna have to step up and go crazy. But luckily we didn't even really have to do that because Soph just kind of decided it don't matter.
Yeah, I mean, Sophie still played like her life depended on it, and yeah, even to add that, Frosty, I didn't mention him a lot until we really got to Game 5. He made some massive contributions. He wasn't the player that you saw consistently on the scoreboard, but he was the ones to make the big contributions. He scored the winning goal in Game 1. He scored some of the early goals in Game 5 that allowed your team to proceed to that win. Take me through kind of that clutch factor, because Ignition seems to have ice in their veins every single series they play. Whenever it comes, and it seems like every single one of the players here has it. I know you have it because I've seen you do it multiple times, but every player on your team has the clutch factor. And take me through kind of what importance that gives to your team, because it seems like for Ignition, you're not a team that kind of like that loses by very much.
Yeah, so I just want to say that like a lot of times like people don't talk about Frosty, man, but Frosty goes kind of crazy in the things that you just kind of don't see. Um, as far as like the comms go, and as far as just like everyone always focuses on the goals and all that, and cool, but Frosty gets the dirty work done, the demos, the just all them being annoying to the other team. So it's really nice that for it to be on our team instead of the other team. As far as the clutch factor goes, I mean, it's relieving to know that we can do it. Um, so like once it's like those ending few seconds, we just know that like okay, we've done it before, we can pull it out. And so it just adds a little bit of confidence to to those final seconds, even if we're down.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Now, let's look at next week. You've just finished up your match for this week. But your next week is going to be a doubleheader. You play Sloth Dark, who are currently 3-0 and are looking unstoppable.
Yeah.
And you also play 14 Kings. I want to hear, what are your predictions for those series? I know, obviously, you're biased, but I want to hear them anyways.
A little bit. So, we're also
just a little bit biased. There's just a little bit biased here. Just asking one of the players. No, but of course, tell me your predictions. What do you think is going to be in those series? Do you even have predictions for those series, or are you just going to go in blind?
No. We got predictions. All right.
Great,
so,
because if you didn't, I would tell you to have some.
Okay. Yeah. Well, haven't really played against Sloth Dark, but I don't think the argument that they're 3-0 really means anything because aren't we 3-0?
Yes, you are also 3-0. Sloth Dark also played a lot of the same teams you played. They played Aura as well as Yukon, and had very similar results. So they also played 14 Kings, so that's going to be interesting playing in next week. But again, what do you have to say about that series? Because I know, obviously, you guys are 3-0. You're looking like one of the top teams in the Premier Series, but Sloth Dark could give you a real nightmare here.
Yeah, so Sloth Dark, we know they're pretty good, I mean, they're 3-0, so obviously they have to be pretty good. That being said, they stand no chance. Could be a 3-0 there. Is the other one?
14 Kings. 14 Kings are currently 2-1. They took a loss to Sloth Dark, as I said before, but they won against Sea Knights as well as Wash Champs. Wash Champs is a team I've seen before. They actually swept Flow State earlier in the season, so this is weird. It's like European RLCS in Blackline, because I just, consistency's thrown out the window here, or maybe it's depth, it's depth. It's definitely depth.
They swept Flow State?
They swept Flow State. I actually saw that series as well. They swept Flow State in, I think, the first week of the competition. Wash Champs is Nation's team.
Oh, you're talking about Wash Champs swept. Okay, I see.
But 14 Kings beat Wash Champs 3-2. Is there? What do you think is your prediction for that series?
So we play 14 Kings. I know EJ and Popo. I know Nemesis too. I know all three of them. They're good. They're good friends of ours. We've scrimmed them a few times before. I think it's going to be a good game. Really close. It's going to be a 3-0 for us.
You're setting up like the game 5 overtime. You're like, it's going to be really... No, it's going to be a 3-0.
Yeah, it's going to be a 3-0.
So, again, totally unbiased predictions here.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say anything about those predictions. I'm not going to say whether I agree or disagree with them, but you know what? You heard it from Wall. That's his predictions. If he's wrong, you can all sue him. It's not my job. Hey man, you make predictions, you gotta stick to them. But again, thank you. I know you are. I know you guys. You guys are. You have a confident team. So again, doubleheader next week of competition. It's gonna be an interesting week for you guys, because it's gonna be a massive week for your team, because 2 matches in 1 week. I believe you only get 1 of those per season. You gotta show up for them. Well, anyways. Is there any last things you want to say? Any people you want to shout out? Any names? Anything you want to say to anybody else before we end this interview?
Yeah, I gotta shout out my boy Ziggy. Ziggy go crazy. I think he just had a kid too. So
yes, he did. He just had a child. I do remember seeing that.
I gotta give him the purple hearts in chat, man. Great dude. Love that man. Yeah, and shout out to everyone who came and supported us from Ignition, and even from not Ignition, if you supported.
Yeah, of course, a lot of support for this series. But anyways, thank you so much for joining. Congratulations on your win. You do get your revenge at last against Flow States, and now maybe we'll see you on the stream in the near future. I have a feeling we will. But again, have an amazing evening, Wall. And congratulations on your win once again.
Thank you.
And that was Wall of Team Ignition. That will end tonight. What a series! It goes all the way to Game 5, and of course it ends in a fabulous fashion. Again, thank you all so much for coming, though. For any of you still sticking around there, huge support. Huge shoutouts to everybody who came out to play. A great series. But what we get here for it, as I am going to be probably taking a break over this kind of next week or so to celebrate time with family. I want to thank you again. I want to thank you all so much for the support. Don't worry, I'll be back very soon with some more gameplay. Expect some fun. Make sure to always follow me on Twitter at SpottySRL, and here on Twitch as well. Even on YouTube, go follow all the socials. I got a link tree as well. Just go follow everything that I have. Simple as that. Just follow me. Have an amazing evening, everybody. It's an absolute blast having you from SpottyFC. Thank you for joining this stream. It was an absolute blast of a night.